order on Tuesday, December 27th at 6 p.m. Mike. Okay, so I guess that will bring us to public comment. So we'll start with people in the room. I'll remind everyone, we ask everyone to state their name, their town of residence. You have 5 minutes to speak, no personal attacks, and please address the board as a whole. And if there's a group of you here with all discussing the same issue, if we could have a representative that would represent you, that would save us some time. So, is anyone in the room that would like to start? Go there. Oh, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Daniel Solomito. I'm a resident of Hartford. I'm here acting as a capacity of the union president for the Hartford Police Department's Mediation Center. Everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the board for taking the time to listen to me. I'd also like to thank the men and women of the Hartford Police Department and the Hartford Emergency Communication Center for their support. I believe there's a small disconnect here from the people that work within our agency and the management of the town regarding the needs of our agency. This agency needs Chief Constance Kelly. I went to college for business, and it was ingrained in me that internal promotion is a preferred method when an organization is running efficiently. It is my belief that we have the most professional group of first responders in the state of Vermont. This culture of professionalism has taken over a decade to build. We would hate to see it deteriorate within the span of months. I did send you all a letter regarding our union's desire to see Connie Kelly promoted to permanent police chief. After sending a letter, it occurred to me that there is more that needs to be known about Connie than that was in that letter. And that is why I'm here speaking to you today. In my 11 years of working for the Hartford Police Department, I've never seen staffing levels the way they were this past summer. People were working 16 hours straight with 8 hours off. And then 16 hours after that, families were being destroyed. Connie selflessly took the reins of the agency and single-handedly prevented utter collapse. I would like to speak about her very real-world acts of selflessness, so you all know why we're advocating to such a degree. Do you know who would answer the phone around dinner time and show up to patrol duties at 11 p.m. to prevent an officer being called in on days off? It wasn't outside management. It wasn't the other candidates for this position. It was Connie. More times than I could count, I would say it.
Solomita, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting a report that people online cannot hear. And I'm sure you would like to be heard.
I would love to.
So let's just see if we can remedy that first. And we're only seeing Allie up there, so.
The microphone is on, isn't it? Is it on? Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I'm able to hear folks, so I'm not sure what's happening, but.
Okay.
Are you able to hear Mr. Solomita? Allie?
Yeah, that's what you just said. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I can hear, yeah.
So
Should probably start again, right?
Well, we're not sure if it's just one person or is it.
Yeah, it just says can't hear meeting.
One person. So it's just one person so far, but Allie is on and she can hear and heard the whole thing. So
Is the audio also being recorded? As long as there's a recorded audio of it.
Yeah.
That should suffice as well. Or does that work for you?
But it might be
As long as we're sure it's working.
if we can make sure that camera 1 is on as well.
Right.
Oh, that's a good sign. You see camera 1 now. All right, should we try again? Jam, do you feel like we can keep going?
I'm hearing from people that they can hear.
They can?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay.
My apologies, but if you wouldn't mind starting over.
Sure.
And I'll start the clock.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the board for the time for listening to me. I would like to thank the men and women of the Hartford Police Department, the Hartford Emergency Communication Center for their support. I believe there's a disconnect between the people that work within the agency and the management of the town regarding the needs of our agency. This agency needs Chief Constance Kelly. I went to college for business, and it was ingrained in me that internal promotion is the preferred method when an organization is running efficiently. It is my belief that we have the most professional group of first responders in the state of Vermont. This culture of professionalism has taken over a decade to build, and we would hate to see it deteriorate within a span of months. I did send you all a letter regarding our union's desire to see Chief Kelly promoted to permanent police chief. After sending the letter, it occurred to me that there is more that needs to be known about Connie than that was in that letter, and that's why I'm here speaking to you. My 11 years working for the Hartford Police Department, I've never seen staffing levels as critical as they were this past summer. People were working 16 hours straight with only 8 hours in between shifts. Families were falling apart. Connie selflessly took the reins of the agency and single-handedly prevented its utter collapse. And I would like to speak about her very real-world acts, selfless leadership, so you know why we're advocating to this degree. Do you know who would answer the phone around dinner time and agree to show up to work patrol duties at 11 p.m. to prevent an officer from being called in on their days off? It wasn't outside management. It wasn't the other candidates for this position. It was Connie. More times than I can count, I would say to her, do you need me to call somebody? And then she'd respond, no, don't do that. They've worked enough. Just let me shut my eyes for a couple hours and I'll be in. And then there she would be. I know Christmas and just past New Year's is coming. I want to talk about Thanksgiving. With Thanksgiving behind us, I hope that everybody here had a wonderful time with their families. We also enjoy Thanksgiving. Imagine a home with a turkey fresh out of the oven, perfectly smoked baby back ribs, wine glasses half full on the dinner table, deafening laughter from the living room. Except what makes this Thanksgiving weird is it occurs on Friday every year. That is because the way our patrol schedule works, the shifts that work on Thanksgiving have the following day off. This is a Thanksgiving celebration for those who work the holiday and their families alike. And this elaborate feast is not organized by the other candidates for this position. It is organized, hosted, and fully funded by Connie. You know, when my oldest son was a baby, I was giddy. It was fantastic. I can still see his little kissable cheeks and I can hear him cooing. But not long after becoming a father, a call came in that changed my life. There was a newborn baby who was beaten to the point of being barely recognizable. Thank God the story has a happy ending and everything turned out fine. But this would not have been the case had our scene commander not stayed calm and collected and gently directed officers on the tasks that needed to be completed. Then after we left the scene, that person was a shoulder to cry on and reassured us that everything was going to be fine. It was because of her calm under pressure that the child has a happily ever after, and there was a successful prosecution on this case. That person was not part of the International Chiefs of Police, nor was it one of the other candidates. That too was Constance Kelly. There's only one candidate for this position that knows the needs of our department, the needs of our citizens, the needs of our town, and it is not the other candidates from the International Chiefs of Police. It is Constance Kelly who has learned these needs by serving this community for decades. I would like to conclude my statements from reading an excerpt from section 702 of the Town of Hartford's personnel policy entitled Promotions, Transfers, and Temporary Service Upgrade. Vacancies and positions above the lowest rank in any department in the town shall be filled as far as is practical by the promotion of employees already in the town's service. So please, for the sake of the town, for the sake of the department, and for the sake of doing what's right by the person who has given so much of herself and asked for nothing in return, follow your own policy, please. Make Connie the first female police chief in Hartford. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else in the room?
Hi, thanks for having me. Barrett Clifford, been a resident of Hartford for 13 years and employed by the PD for 14. I'll try to follow up Sergeant Solomino. All right, I've worked with Connie since 2008 when she was assigned as the school resource officer. I had the pleasure of working under her when she was first promoted as sergeant. During my time working under her, she made a point to provide leadership, along with compassion and understanding. Earlier in my career, I made a traffic stop. The driver was clearly high, and upon attempting to arrest him, the operator ran up a steep hill. I then chased after. During a brief fight with the operator, I was knocked from the hill and fell backwards down about 4 feet on the roof floor, cracking the back of my head open, which knocked me unconscious. The first person I remember being there when I opened my eyes was Connie. She was on the ground placing handcuffs on the operator, who ended up being high on LSD. Connie made sure that not only was I taken care of on scene with HFD, but my loved ones were as well during my recovery. In 2016, I went out for a previous workplace injury. I was working under Connie at the time. And like a great supervisor, she sensed what was going on with one of her people and felt my anxiety and my nerves. And she got the whole shift together, even along with dispatch, and it surprised me with a personalized cake, which lifted my spirits and reassured me that the PD in the town had my back while I was out. In 2021, I responded to a call for service where someone ultimately tried to murder me, and more so tried to take me away from my wife and my young daughter. The stress of if I would be able to return to work due to a work-sustained career-altering injury, and if I could continue to provide for my family, was overwhelming. Connie was there through it all. She fought for me and ensured that I had a role at the PD. She believes in her people, and we believe in her to take care of us and provide us leadership. She has always been a leader within our ranks, and when she was presented with the opportunity to be our chief, she flourished and continues to do so. And she embodies everything I've known a leader to be, and I admire and strive to be that because of her. Would the town really want to bargain on an unknown stranger when we have a surefire chief right here, who we've entrusted for many years, and the town we've helped in mold and grow her? A police department represents the community it serves, and Connie is all of that and more. As a Hartford resident of 13 years, town employee for over 14, and more so husband and father, I urge the town to make acting Chief Kelly officially chief. It's time we do the right thing for our PD and more so the community that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room?
Hello, Russ North, White River Junction, Vermont. And anything I say is my own personal opinion and does not represent any views of the school board, nor there has been any discussion on this topic. I would amplify that from everything, I do not know Interim Chief Kelly at all. I've not had any interactions with her, but from people I trust, she does sound like a strong candidate that deserves serious consideration. My issue, I actually have two issues. One, the fact that there's an executive session scheduled for a personnel matter, but there is no discussion, no listing that you are going to appoint anybody to a position tonight. So there might be an open meeting law question that needs to be resolved. But more importantly, from my point of view, there's a process. Until you get a full-time town manager and Chief Kelly can understand who that is and how they may interact, it might be premature to appoint a police chief, a full-time police chief at this time. I'm not saying that it's not the right decision. I just think the process should be followed, because then if there's a problem, it mixes up the chain of command. In other words, the town's own, the select board's only employee is the town manager. The town manager is responsible for the ultimate hiring. So if there's an issue between the two of them and with being appointed by the select board, it could be muddy the waters. So I just ask you to consider process, because that's something that's been lacking from both boards at times in this town. So we want to do it the right way to ensure there's a smooth transition. And in fact, Interim Chief Kelly has somebody that she feels she can work with or before getting the position. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Okay, so any hands up, Ken?
Joyce, did you want to talk? I've got Joyce Perkins. Oh, and I've got another hand up now too. Joyce, if you'd like to speak, can you unmute? She was able to hear us, so maybe she's still having problems. Can I go to the next person? Okay, Tim Ferriel, go ahead.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. I just wanted to kind of touch on a topic that I've been thinking about a lot. I know you guys are going through a lot of the budget work, and thanks for all your hard work on that. The one thing I see year after year in Hartford is that we have this challenge of obviously trying to do what we need to do in terms of like essential maintenance and kind of make frugal decisions, but we often do not explore or present in front of voters new program development that I think can take the community in better directions. So I'm just coming to quickly speak tonight on my belief that, and Kim has touched on this many times, having the courage and the boldness to create some type of kind of, whether it's the preliminary study or it's the actual position, but really try and rethink both community policing and adding perhaps some different personnel to address some of the challenges we have as a community, I think would be a very wise path to go. And you got to start somewhere. So for you as a select board, you have to carve out and have that courage to fund whatever's needed to kind of, head down that new path and consider that. So that's the main thing I wanted to say tonight is, have the courage to present, new expenses, new ideas, and let the voters decide whether they feel the same way that you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. That's good.
Joyce, do you want to try one more time? Oh,
Hello?
yeah.
Yes, yay, okay. I just wanted to echo what Russell said. I do think that Kelly would be fantastic, but with seeing the way the proceedings have been going for the last 2 or 3 years, I'm really concerned about putting things before we really have things firmly there. And I'm not saying people's going to do that, but I'm just saying, I think we need to slow it down some. And that's all I had to say. And I'm all for Connie. I just think that we need to really look at the process a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. That's good. That's it. Okay. So there's no more people that want to speak in public comment. So we will go over to select board comments and announcements. Start down here, Lenny.
Guess I'm gonna refrain.
Rocket.
Yeah. Have a comment. It's so great that you're all here. I know you're here for to support each other, but I just think it's a great opportunity to thank you in person for everything you do for our town. The more my interactions with police prior to serving on this board were pretty much just as a normal citizen. Being on the board, obviously, I've gotten to do a ride along and had taken more of an interest in the behind the scenes of what you guys take on, guys, gals, gender neutral. But I just want to say that I know it's incredibly difficult work, and I know that you've been understaffed. I know that's been incredibly difficult. So I just wanted to take this opportunity while you're here to thank you for your service and to let you know that not just myself, but others amongst us support what you do. So really appreciate that. And I also wanted to sort of take the chance, because I was on Zoom last meeting, but to thank you, and then also to thank DPW, the water staff, fire department, just for everything that everyone has done to hold this town together in the last few weeks. It's been huge amount of storms that the power shutting off, and we saw wastewater was going to DPW to get fuel to keep the generators running. It's so interesting how our town being so dispersed can strain resources in a way that a town of a similar population, but in a more dense environment, is not as strained. So just want to take the moment to recognize those of you here in the room and staff who are not in the room. Beyond that, happy to be here. It is an honor to serve the town of Hartford.
Talk it. Ally, do you have anything?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mary.
Yeah, I'm all set, thank you.
Kim, you good? Gail, do you want to add anything from your perspective? Okay, good. So I just want to take and hopefully hit on all the things that people have brought up. I think that we've heard very different things. We've got a great candidate here that's in-house. We had a process that was put in place to make sure that we were fair in this hiring process, and we opened up that just that process again to allow an in-house candidate to apply because the deadline had not been met. So we want to make sure that we're following the guidelines. We've reached out to legal counsel to make sure that's happening. In terms of the executive session tonight, we are tending to put that on the meeting because, as we know, every department seems to be understaffed and we have issues that come up. So that's sort of more protection for us in case we have something that comes up. Doesn't look like we're going to need to use that tonight. But again, this has been reviewed by legal counsel to make sure that this is done properly in case we need it. But at this point, unless something changes in the next hour, we don't plan on having an executive session tonight to discuss anything, but it was there in case we needed it. So I think that answers your question, Russell. And I just want, it's very interesting to hear how 2 weeks ago, a month ago, we had many residents that came to the meeting and said, you've been twiddling your thumbs, you know, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but saying we've been having this police search for 2 years now. What's the problem? So now we're moving it forward. We're making sure we've got all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted. We're following the proper procedure. We've reached out to legal counsel to make sure that everything is lined, we're following open meeting law, and this is where we are. So we're moving forward, making sure that no one has any that it's a level playing field for all the candidates that are involved. We hear you. We appreciate all the work that you do. And I just want to say we're so thankful to have a town that almost every department, every board, every commission is understaffed. Okay. And yet when push comes to shove in a meeting, like Rocket said, everyone steps up. And we realize that. And I don't think we take enough time to thank each other for what other people do. But I think everyone has the same objective here, is to get us, a qualified police chief, to get us a town manager that's qualified, to get staffing in all the departments, to get our boards and commissions, people to step up and serve on those so that we can do the town work. But we've been here every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 or 4 months now. I don't know how much additional time Gail is putting in, but every time I send an email within 15 minutes, it seems I get one back. So there's no one that I don't think is not doing their job. And like you, everyone I think is taking on the extra burden to make sure that things can run as smoothly as possible. So I just want to remind everyone that we're all in this together. We're all doing the best we can. None of us are perfect. I make mistakes. I think everyone makes mistakes. We try to correct those and fix them and own them when we do. And let's just move forward. We've heard you. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for having a very respectful discussion with us. And thank you for your kind words on Connie.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I might add as a aside, Vermont state law states that appointment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during the open meeting. So we can meet and explain the actions we took within executive session, but it doesn't have to be at the meeting that the executive session is held in. So we can hold an executive session without having to explain or make an appointment after that executive session. And I do believe we still need an executive session this evening to discuss affairs of the town in terms of evaluation or employment of a public officer. It would behoove us to take that time.
We'll take a vote and see where we are when it comes time. Rocket, do you have a comment?
Oh, I just want to turn these fans off.
We tried,
We tried.
we tried.
It's like, it seems locked. We got locked out.
Okay. Any other select board comments? All right, thank you. Let's then go to new appointments. So the first one is consider the appointment of Laura Simon to the Hartford Energy Commission for a 3-year term beginning December 27th, 2022 and ending December 26th, 2025. She's on, so. Laura, when you're ready, do you want to say anything? Introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, hello, I'm Laura Simon. I live in Wilder and oops. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Laura Simon. I live in I live in Wilder, and I want to thank the officers, their presence too, for their support to everything they do in our community. I don't have a lot to say except that I decided to come forward to be a volunteer with the Hartford Energy Commission because through my work on the climate action plan, we identified that a goal we can work on would be increasing the amount of solar in our town. So I've had a little experience with my own solar, my own electric car, and I just felt like it would be a good use of my time, and the people on the Energy Committee encouraged me to apply. So here I am. I'm open to questions, or I appreciate you considering me for the Hartford Energy Commission.
Thank you, Laura, and thanks for joining us tonight. Any questions or comments? Starting with something else first, Kim, anything?
Laura, is the cast the only, are you on other commissions at this time for the town?
Yeah, Kim, I'm pretty much stepping into a busy situation here. I'm with Resilient Hartford. That's the committee I'm on. And I already alerted them that if things get too hectic, I may not be able to continue there, but I would still work on their food forest. I am with the working group of Climate Action Steering Team. And then this will be another working group with HEC. We're doing Solarize. So I am going to be looking ahead to see which parts I can handle, but this new effort is a priority for me.
Got you. And I apologize. I do see it now. I missed it on your application form that you did put Resilient Hartford as well as Cass. Thanks. I don't have any other questions.
Mary, anything? No? Ally, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, Rocket.
I think the mission of bringing more solar to town is a good one. I think especially the power outages, because we were the most afflicted town in all of Vermont. Half the town was lost power. So I think it's a great one.
Right. We had a pretty serious situation from that. Yep.
Lenny, anything?
Yeah, Laura, I have a question. You put down for the answer for what might some solutions be, you put down, just keep trying to make progress. Is that to imply that you do not feel that progress has been made towards the climate action plan? Or
No,
what is that to imply?
Keep trying. There are like 70 goals, Lanny, and I think there's a lot for us to try to accomplish. And I think the best we can do is look at where we think we can make the most progress. So I didn't try to say it as a negative evaluation, just that there's so much to do that I think the best we could do is just keep trying, keep identifying where we can make some progress and keep working at it.
So what areas of the town would you say have we made progress in this area?
When you look at what Climate Action Steering Team has done, they've worked with the Resilient Hartford. So we do have some food forests happening. We have a sustainability person, Dana, and he is working hard on all the municipal buildings. I think there's progress there. He's certainly identified ways that all the departments can save on their energy. I think I would have to do some more, evaluating, but it takes a lot more work than you think it will. When you first do the climate action plan and you identify all these goals, to actually make some of them happen, it's going to take some work.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Mary, go ahead.
I move that we appoint Laura Simon to the Hartford Energy Commission for a 3-year term beginning December 27th, 2022 and ending December 26th, 2025.
I will second this.
Any further discussion or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so it's unanimous. Thank you, Laura, for stepping up for another committee. We appreciate that. Next, thank you.
Thank you all for considering me.
Thank
Thank you, Laura.
Okay, next up, we'll consider the appointment of Molly Armbrust, and I hope I said that right, to the Hartford Committee on Racial Equity and Inclusion for a 2-year term beginning December 27, 2022 and ending December 26th of 2024. And I don't know if Molly is with us. Perfect, great. Okay. come on up if you want to introduce yourself, tell us anything about you.
Hi, I'm Molly, West Hartford. And so I am applying to be the student liaison to H. Corey. I don't have a ton to say about that, it's just that I've been attending the meetings for a while. And then at a certain point, just as a community member, and then at a certain point came up that I could potentially be attending a different sort of capacity, and did some work to change the charge to include student liaisons, and so now to the step of actually applying. Yeah, I'm doing I do some equity and integration work in other realms, high school, and this is just a really great way to connect sort of the work in town and the school, and to just continue the work. So
Great. Thank you. So we'll start with Lanny this time. Any questions?
Yeah, you put down as your area need a municipality which can be addressed by either the administration or advisory boards. You put down that the issue currently at the forefront of my mind relates to lack of values the town seems to put on equity. While there are individuals working within the town who are deeply committed to equity, the overall message from the town does not seem to prioritize this. Explain a little bit more about what you mean for that, because I thought we were working very diligently on equity within town of Hartford.
yes, so to be clear, when I was saying there are individuals, I'm not attacking any individual person for not valuing that. There's so much that a town has to address and just get going. I see a lot of sort of initiatives that HCOR puts forward, sort of getting pushed down the road, and I understand why. And at the same time, I want to keep encouraging those to be addressed and move forward. So did that answer your question?
What in your opinion has been held up from a point of equity for the town of Hartford?
I don't have in this moment I'm not thinking of one specific thing. I know that we often have lots of conversations about who proposed the trainings, and it's taken forever to move forward on that. So I don't have one specific thing that I can think of in this moment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, hi Molly. Does it, Greg, you're a junior.
Yes.
I think it's so great that you're stepping up. I went to a high school that really encouraged students to step up for different committees. I feel like I learned a lot in that process. So I think it's wonderful that you're being engaged beyond your education and also in our town. So I want to celebrate that. I am wondering if you have thoughts on the longevity of that, because sometimes it can be hard when you have one student come and then who's the next student and how you pass that torch on. I know that's a conversation we had also, and what you think that we can do, not just through H. Corey, but also town-wide to encourage younger people to be involved in town.
Yes, it's a really interesting thing. I don't know. I know that as within sort of the equity work that I've done in the high school, it's a lot of people are I care about this and I'm so overwhelmed and I can't do it. So I think it's a challenge. And I also think that there are people there who can who can and will work this into their schedule and lives. And yeah, and that was definitely as we were talking about changing the charge, I was is this something that can be sustained? And that was definitely something that I wasn't totally sure about. But I also think as the school specifically continues to integrate more equity focused education and work, that more and more people will sort of become educated and then be able to become passionate about it. So I think it's probably moving in a direction where there will be increasing numbers of students who are wanting to.
To be clear, I'm going to support you and vote for you on this. And I don't expect you to have all the answers on it. I just think that it's interesting to have you here and for us to have this opportunity to ask you ways that we might engage that population of our community, which is students.
And that's something that I'm constantly thinking about as I'm trying to maintain sort of membership in a committee at the high school. How do we? And I think sort of impetus for action comes from learning And so I think as more people learn, I think we will see that some of them become motivated to. But yeah.
We'll look forward to your service. Thank you for applying.
That's right. Ally, do you have anything?
Not a question, but just a comment in support of Molly's candidacy. Just in the immense amount of grace, maturity, wisdom. I can't say enough wonderful things about Molly and the commitment that she's shown to H. Corey thus far as, just a volunteer and an unofficial member. So very excited and thrilled to have your continued, I hope, assuming we vote, affirmatively, to have your continued commitment, Molly. Thank you.
Thanks, Ally. Right.
Yeah, I want to thank you also for stepping up like this. It's hard. It's really hard to come before a board of adults. But I think that what you represent is you represent the future. I mean, the more that you are involved, the more that you're going to be a role model for others. And that's our future. And we need that. And so I want to thank you for that.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier. So I'm glad that it's gotten to this point before you graduated, because this has been something that H. Corey has been working on for a long time. And so I appreciate your patience and your dedication. And like, there has not been another non-voting member, community member that has attended our meetings as frequently as Molly has, almost all of them. And so when you're ready, I'd be delighted to make a motion.
Thank you. Well, Molly, thank you for stepping up and you're breaking ground here, which is great. And I hope all the media that's out there watching this realizes that there's a news story here about to happen. So I hope they reach out to you and contact you because you've done a terrific job. And we need the voice of the younger generation, and that's you. So thank you for doing that and continuing on and stepping up in this capacity. We appreciate that. So Kim, when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, it'd be my honor to ask the select board to appoint Molly Armbrust to the Hartford Committee on Racial Equity and Inclusion in a 2-year term beginning December 27, 2022 and ending December 26, 2024.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion or comment? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 So it's unanimous. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yay.
And our third appointment this evening has withdrawn their application, so we don't need to consider that. So that will bring us to the town manager's report and significant activity report.
Does anybody have questions on the report that was provided?
Nice. Okay, just the how close are we to being able to get some kind of report or update from the UNH carbon clinic, from the energy coordinator or sustainable energy coordinator?
That would be a question I can ask Dan.
I would love, I mean, I've been really glad to see the updates in the significant activities, and so whenever they're ready to kind of share the big picture with us, it will be, and I'm delighted.
Okay, I will ask him and get back to you on that one.
Mary, anything?
The only thing I can say is in my daily walks, just getting outside and meeting my neighbors, everybody has been so thankful for all the work that has been done by DPW and water and wastewater and the police and the fire department and how they handled it. And we know that it's been tough. And, most of us can sit in our homes very safely and stay out of the way. But these people have put themselves out there for many, many, many hours over and above the call of duty. So I just want you to know that even though there are people who don't say anything, the town really does appreciate all that has gone on, particularly these last few weekends. Thank you.
Ally, do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay, let's rock it.
Yes, sort of just loosely on my mind, but I would love at some point to revisit a conversation about reassessment, a townwide reassessment. I know that we are 1/100th of a percentage off in our CLA, common level of assessment, for being mandated by the state to do that. But I think it would just be more, as I've been thinking a lot about the housing situation, obviously, and I just think the more information and accurate information we have about what our grand list looks like, how things are about, properties are balanced and whatever. I just think the more information we'd have, the better. I remember Joe Turner talking about how that would take a long time to set into motion anyway, but would love to sort of see that revisited. I just was thinking about that as we see the work coming out of the assessor's office.
Sure, I can follow up with him and get a refresher on the timing of what was originally proposed and then have another discussion about it.
That'd be great. Thank you, guys.
I don't have any questions on it.
Okay. All right, so thank you, Gail. That will bring us to board reports, motions, and ordinances. So we'll start with the TIF district, debt period, and increment collection extension.
So Lori is on Zoom and she will begin shortly. Can you bring her over as a panelist? Just as a reminder, we talked about this in the last year. And so we're looking to extend it again. We have the opportunity and there's no reason why we shouldn't.
So Lori, when you're ready.
Let's see.
Lori, you can unmute when you're ready.
Maybe she's.
Oh, there she goes.
Lori, are you there?
I think while we're waiting for her to get on, does anybody have any questions about the memo that was presented? That
With the unobligated funds, I guess I was curious to know if there were plans for the remaining unobligated amount.
I believe that there is, and I don't have the specific guidelines, because when we originally went to the voters and asked for the funding, for the approval for them, there was a list of projects that goes with them. So it's a matter, they go in steps, as you know, so
Yeah.
they may be obligated. And then if a project changes, but the overall debt piece of it itself. But she would be able to give you the list of the projects.
And I feel like I probably have known the answer to that question in the past.
And I'm pretty sure that I have them in my other book because we went over them when we were doing the budget process and looking at the projects that we have, and so many of them commingle with public works together.
Right.
So
Gail, piggybacking on what Kim just said, if there are funds that are for specific projects, what happens? Because obviously now the price of everything is up. What do we do if we've got the funds that are supposed to be set aside for something, but now is no longer in that price range that we
so we have to
find it?
We have to find it.
Okay,
Right. Especially because a lot of their projects are multi-year projects.
right.
And so obviously COVID has pushed us back
Right.
quite a bit. And the price of everything has gone through the roof. And so we need to find alternative funding. And we've been fairly successful with getting our grants getting
Right.
increased.
Mhm.
We also have been able to utilize the state revolving water and wastewater funding, which is supplemented pieces. So say for roadways, that may have gone up, but we now have been able to find a funding source to cover the water and stormwater and wastewater. So that frees up funding to put over to the roadways.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
And then ultimately, if we can't find any of that type of funding, then it would come back to the taxpayers, which is something that is the last resort.
Any other questions?
And Lori seems to have dropped off. Yeah, she might try to log back.
My question, I'm not sure if it's for you or for Lori, but how much more developable property is there in the downtown region? That's one of the biggest concerns, is how much more is left.
That's not a question that I'm.
I know, that's why I say it's a Lori question. I
Yeah.
said it's not for you, so I understand.
Gail, this seems pretty straightforward. Is there anything that we should be concerned about, or is there a?
No,
Just
absolutely not.
any
This is a great
kickers?
opportunity and
So,
for us to be able to do it, especially like I said, we got pushed back quite a bit with COVID.
Yeah,
And
right.
so this is actually giving us the opportunity to hopefully get all the projects completed within the timeline
right,
that with the extension.
Great.
I'm ready to make a motion, feel entertained.
Yeah, I mean, I think just as a courtesy, Lori's just got
Yeah,
back on.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, I agree with you. I think there's no reason to not, but maybe let's just give Lori an opportunity. Just-
Can you hear me? Can anyone?
Yes.
Hey, thank you. Great. I just had to try 3 different times and it worked finally. Thank you. I'm sorry. I know you had some questions. I was trying to follow that. Could you just
Yeah.
restate your questions?
Yeah, so the 2 questions, Lori, one is projects that would be set for the unobligated funds.
Okay, so there are a couple projects on that. The biggest one is really finishing up the North Main Street area. We have some sidewalks to do, new relocation of the street lights there, and we have some stormwater items to finish up there as well, and sidewalk and putting in some parking lanes. So that's the biggest project. Whether or not that'll be enough funds to do that, we'll find out as we go through the engineering phase of that as well, finishing that up. And that's for the unobligated funds. There also might pull in a little bit of improvements on Courier Street, but we do have some funds already put aside for that. And that's the old section of Courier Street, not the new build out section.
So the other question they had, Lori, how much more property is available for developing?
Okay, so we do have areas along Pine Street, and some of the properties there are being identified for redevelopment. There also are a few other areas along North Main Street, close to the corner, that there's sections there that could redevelop as well. There are housing areas there that could redevelop, either redevelopment of what's currently there in the footprint, or going beyond that. So that's on both sides of the street on North Main.
Thanks, Lori.
One more question for you,
And
Lori.
there is also, what I also would like to note is also redevelopment on South Main Street in terms of the gates and block, so.
Lori, in terms of the Prospect Street building that's going to be built for housing, where do TIF funds fall in line in regards to that for water and infrastructure needs?
So all the water and infrastructure needs were done when we did the original redevelopment of the block in 2014, 2015. And all of the redevelopment of the Prospect Street at that time included all the infrastructure that was needed in order to support development in all 3 parcels. 2 of the parcels have been completed, and the 3rd one is what you're seeing now. So there is no additional infrastructure needs there. However, because of all the redevelopment within TIF district is all considered one district, and everything within every corner of it is a beneficiary, benefits other sections. It's all what they call nexus in TIF district. All of it does interrelate. So supporting the debt on that section is already in play since 2014. But the TIF funds that are coming in from the 3rd development will help support redevelopment in other sections of the downtown.
So within our TIF district that we have, is all of the, I guess you'd say, groundwork for infrastructure needs been completed for
No.
use of these funds?
No, we still have some work to be done in on North Main Street and some work to be done on Courier Street.
And are those in the pipeline to be done with TIF
One-
funds?
The one in on Courier Street is, we have money put aside that predominantly covers infrastructure for water. Most part of what we need to do there is stormwater management and a little bit of underground utility work related to wastewater. And there may be a couple connections that need to be completed there, and then we need to do the surface improvements. Most of the surface improvements plus what's on North Main Street have not yet been authorized through the voters. And that's the type of work that we're going to need to do with the remaining, $1.3 million.
So that 1.13 then is,
Right.
that's for money for work to come before us. That's not to include the work you just mentioned for in-ground work that still needs to be done.
No, that's not correct. I think what I said was there's two different components of that. There's authorized by the voters, but we had not yet necessarily pulled the bond or the loan funds for, and that's already accounted for. The 1.13 million is really to go for those other infrastructure improvements that are needed on North Main Street, below ground and above ground, and some of the improvements that are needed above ground may be needed as well for that short section of Courier Street.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, Russell.
Okay.
Russ North, and since my house hasn't sold, I continue to live in White River Junction. I have a question regarding the extension and the collection of the special TIF funds. It was my understanding that the clock started on the 10-year special tax incentive once the first funds were drawn on. Then the benefit of the TIF district as we extend the projects decreases, and it ends up being more like a regular bond. So in some level, and this is no fault of anybody sitting on the board, we're passing the buck to a future generation.
So could I respond to that? I think that there's multiple deadlines. I think that because it is something that everybody deals with every day, that I think it would be helpful to just clarify. The 10-year extension period, there's the first one is the from 2011 on when the TIF district was approved. We have 10 years to incur debt. That debt, when it was extended for 3 years in 2020 because of the Great Recession, that enabled us to actually take advantage of that full 10 years, because for the first 3 years, we basically weren't able to do anything because of the recession. All of the projects that were lined up to be worked on, which there were at least 2 of them on the private sector, fell away. And it wasn't fiscally responsible for the town to start incurring debt for infrastructure improvements if we didn't know that the development was coming on the heels of it. So that's the first thing I wanted to just clarify about a 10-year debt. The second thing is our ability to collect increment. And I think that may be what you're speaking to. It's our ability to collect the additional increment. That is based on 20 years from the first time that you pull your first debt. Our first debt was pulled in 2014. Therefore, we have the extension to 2034 in order for us to collect the revenue that's needed, that's coming into the TIF district based on the TIF program, 75% of the new taxes. Now, again, it's just the new tax. It's not anything that existed prior to when the district was in 2011. And in fact, we weren't able to even start collecting any of that until 2014. So we lost the first 3 years of being able to collect anything as well. So as you keep pushing it out, you really, because of the district having slower development, in essence, it just stretches it out over a longer period of time, but the amount being collected isn't really increasing because the redevelopment wasn't occurring. And what we're seeing now with COVID is we're slowing down. We slowed down because of COVID in terms of redevelopment. We had some projects that did get through, which is good, but the horizon is still slower than we had anticipated And that just means that we won't be able to take advantage of what we were originally approved for. If we can't have our debt extended, then we may leave some money on the table. If we don't have the opportunity to get the full 20 years of our debt collection because the development basically got interrupted unintentionally. I know everybody recognizes it was unintentional, but it just means that we won't be able to fully realize the goals and objectives of the TIF district with losing that time period.
Okay, thank you. I think you basically said what I said, but in many more words, but it is a very complex financing arrangement, and I would encourage, if this goes forward in the future, a better understanding of the positives and the negatives of this type of finance. Thank you.
So Lori, what will this extension bring us out to incur debt?
If we go another 2 years, right now we have the ability to incur debt up until March 31, 2024. This will take it out to 2026.
So I just see that we've extended this thing once, and I know that everything is blamed on COVID, but I don't see anything going out for, I mean, within this time period, I guess, if we're going to do this, we need to make sure that we have every duck in a row here, because we can't keep extending this thing. It seems like we should get everything, the TIF district's not that big an area. We should get everything drawn up, what we want to do, and complete it. It seems like we should have had that done by now, at least the engineering on it. And
so if I could offer some understanding of where we are, in the first hit of this in 2020, we weren't able to start projects until 2 to 3 months into our construction season. That extended what we thought was going to be 1 construction season into 2 construction seasons. We also have ready and to line up at that time, and we went out to bid very early in 2022 in order to get ahead and be able to do a couple projects. But unfortunately, because of the supply chain, we were all ready to go April 1, but because of supply chain, we didn't get started until June. And so we keep falling behind. And then we also have to be cognizant of the fact that if we did everything all at once, we would be strangling the downtown. So we can't do where we had thought we could stage things, 2 projects over 1 construction season. Because of COVID, we were not able to do that. So we're now 2 to 3 years behind in terms of doing our parking lot projects, and having to break projects up into 2 construction seasons in the last 3 seasons. So we're trying our best, and we are ready to go.
I can completely understand how
Lonnie, let her finish, Lonnie. She's not done. Lori, go ahead.
Lanny.
I just want to say that we are working diligently to get things out to bid. Again, it's really the staging of it and making sure that we have good bids and that we have contractors that are fully staffed in order to do the work.
So the problem I have here, Lori, is that we don't even have engineering completed on this stuff. And engineering is not something that's going to choke the downtown area. Construction will choke the downtown area. Completely understand that. But we need engineering to be completed. And without having engineering completed, it doesn't make any sense why we're still pushing this thing forward. We can have engineering, and then I understand the cost will go higher. But once we have the engineering completed, that work's done.
But Lanny, if we don't
Wait. We have a process here. If you'd like to speak, wait to be acknowledged, please, okay? And let the person who's speaking finish before we move on, so that we can be respectful of each other.
Sure, sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair.
So we do have engineering in process. So the engineering that for the next projects that will be constructed in 2023 and in 2024, we're hoping we can get 2 of them done in 2023, but we're not sure that it'll work out that way, then we can get it, we'll have to carry that over to 2023. The projects that we have to finish the engineering on, the money for that comes through a TIF bond. I may be mistakenly, but I've been very conservative in terms of not putting the town into a position of having to bond for money until we're getting close to our stage of being able to implement. So for the engineering piece and construction of some of the projects, we have to make some decisions based on how much money we have left and whether or not we want to go to the voters two or three times. And then whether or not we want to start taking bonds out that is going to cover the cost of the engineering, or the town wants to upfront that cost. So I've been trying to be very conservative about not requiring us to be paying on loan debts of 2 or 3 years before we're actually going to need to use the money. So far we've been doing pretty well on that. We did have a bit of a shift, and so we had one loan we pulled out, and we've been paying on it because we haven't had the opportunity to get into construction because COVID. But putting that aside, I think we've done pretty well in terms of lining things up with engineering and construction and having the funds available for use.
Thanks, Lori. Rocket, go ahead.
I feel like I've gotten a little lost with all the information that's been exchanged. So Lori, I just wanted to state succinctly what I understand this to be. And if you just point out any corrections. My understanding is the TIF district, which is designated in this map, is one that is designated and approved by the state legislature, which allows us to basically borrow against the future taxes, marginal tax growth that we might stimulate in that area. That's correct, right?
Correct.
And that, but it's, of course, we only get to keep 75% of that marginal tax increase. Anything that was a pre-existing tax rate would be taxed at with the existing split between town and state. The ability to borrow be opened in 2011, and we had a 10-year window to identify projects for which we would bond. But then that was pushed back 3 years to 24, and now we're seeking another 2 years, just a window during which we can borrow money against this TIF district, future cash flow of the marginal taxes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then the period during which the town of Hartford gets to keep the TIF increment, which is that 75% of the marginal taxes, that period starts at the first moment that we incur debt, which was 2014.
Correct.
Is that okay? And so then that window started and lasts for 20 years and goes until 2034. The question I have is, I mean, first question is, this doesn't affect the town's bonding capacity, right? When we work with the bond bank, this is a different borrowing capacity because it's a different revenue stream. Is that correct?
It's a government fund. So it is included in the benchmark that you received.
It is, okay.
Correct.
Okay, and then the second question I have is, with that window opening at 2014 and lasting to 2034, does it change at all with this extension of 2 years? It does not, right? It's just our window to identify projects to borrow. So really, like, it makes sense that it does make sense to have a wider window that we would be able to identify projects and to borrow. It also makes sense that we have an incentive to get as much TIF incremental tax in the TIF district as possible, because that window closes in 2034. Is that all correct? But whether or not we actually do that or not is not affected by this window. This window is really what we're voting on. It's just extending 2 years longer the ability for our town to identify projects and possibly take out debt should we see fit. That's all.
We're currently making bond payments on all of the TIF loans that we have right now.
Right.
It's not as though we're deferring them.
Right. This is just the window during
Correct.
which we can identify and take out new debt.
Correct. And we know that the 24 budget that we're working on right now, we're not asking for any bond money.
Great.
So that moves us to 25 and 26.
Cool. So I just want to make sure I was on the clear understanding. I would love to make a motion if you're willing to entertain. Go ahead. Okay. Mr. Vice Chair, I'd make a motion to authorize the acting town manager to take the necessary steps to pursue with the 2023 Vermont legislature 2-year extensions on Hartford's TIF district deadlines for incurring debt and for retaining TIF increment.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
One opposed. And all the rest are in favor. Thank you. Okay, change the membership guidelines of the staff liaison on the Housing and Homelessness Committee.
All right, I think all of these coming up are all me. So there was a discussion about the current membership guidelines and having a voting staff liaison member on it. And currently there's a 7-person voting membership, which includes a board liaison and a staff liaison. And would like to have the discussion to consider going in alignment with all of our other committees that we have, whereas the staff liaison is not a voting member. So discussion of changing it potentially to a 7-person voting membership and 1 staff member liaison, which would bring it to 8 members, or leave it at the 7-person membership with 6 voting members and 1 non-voting member. So that's the discussion at the moment.
And does the charter dictate either way? If you know, do we need to consult the charter to make sure that, that both of those are options that we can pursue?
I wouldn't recommend that you would go with the 6
Okay.
person for obvious reasons.
Yep. Right.
You'd never get anything accomplished.
Right.
Charter does not address this committee.
I was asking for clarification. And if you'd like to make a comment, I would ask that you wait to be acknowledged, please.
So that's what's on the table. Membership, you know, keep it at 7, change it to 8, excuse me, have 7 voting and 1 non-voting.
Other questions or comments?
I mean, I just wanted to say, I think, and I'd be interested to hear from Ally, who is the current liaison, but I would support that, having 7 voting members, all residents of Hartford, and including 1 voting select board liaison member, plus 1 town staff liaison who is not a voting member.
Okay. Ally, did you want to comment on that at all?
No, that makes sense to me, and I'm happy to make a motion if we're there yet.
Okay. I think we are. I don't think anyone else has comments, so go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to try this out and then open to friendly amendments always. So, Mr. Vice Chair, I move that the Select Board revise the Constitution of the Hartford Committee on Housing and Homelessness to the following. This committee will be constituted by no more than 7 Hartford residents, including 1 Select Board member. Each of these members shall have equal weight in discussion and voting. The committee shall also include up to 1 non-voting member of town staff at the discretion of the town manager for a total of 8 members.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? So it's unanimous.
Dan, could I ask a procedural question?
Sure.
Should I, because I know I've been the one communicating and sharing the charge when we first created the charge and formalized it, should I send the revised language, send that new document that has what we just talked about to you, the chair, to Gail, and to Lana to post on the website?
I think that would be great. Yeah, thank you.
Great, I will do that.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we'll go budget cycle schedule reminder.
So next month, we're going to be going to the end of it. So on January 5th, we're going to have town manager, debt appropriations, and we're going to begin our wrap-up session number 1 of 2 that we're going to be having to have those fluid discussions And then on January 17th, we're going to have our final wrap-up session. We'll talk about CIP, debt versus savings, your ARPA funding. And then again, if there's any outstanding questions for staff. And then on January 19th is a special board meeting, special budget meeting to talk about any petitions that have come in, and that will be the final session for it. We'll be printing the budget on the 20th, and that'll be a wrap.
Great. Questions or comments, Mary?
Have you thought about what the process will be for us to finalize some? I guess we don't have to finalize all the ARPA decision, but especially I will have to be zooming in for both those, the 17th and the 19th, and so I'm just kind of trying to think about how to be prepared for that. I know what my priorities are, but if you can share what you think will happen, that would be great.
So leading up to the meeting on the 17th, I will be providing everybody updated CIP schedules, and they will have recommendations in them, both from staff and from me, on which ones are ARPA funding. Ultimately, the board has the final decision on all of it. I think that Public Works touched on a few items when they were here, a couple of great projects that are ready to go that would be good use of the funding. So that's kind of how I envision, in the next couple of weeks, you'll get the list with the recommendations, and that's the goal.
And then the debt versus savings. Clearly it will be too late at that point to be considering acquiring any new bond debt. But I guess I'll just wait and see. So there'll also be recommendations about that and like different ways of funding reserve accounts as well.
Correct. So part of the debt versus savings is whether or not you want to take out more loans, not necessarily bonds, but take out loans to purchase equipment. Do you want to fund your reserve accounts based on what is needed? We know, every 5 years, we're going to have to replace a certain piece of equipment. Do you want to change, some of the departments don't have reserve deposits. So that's more of a discussion that we're going to be having. We know based on the benchmark assessment that was provided to us, we do have availability in some areas to take on more debt. We're not taking on more right now. But that gives you an idea for the bigger projects. And as we move through this budget cycle and then start in July, we're going to be talking about the 25 budget again. Excuse me, we'll start talking about budgets, but it'll be the 25 budget. At that point in time, the board and staff should have a good idea. Do we want to take debt out on 25 or not?
Yeah. And for that, you'll provide basically provide us with what is currently in reserve accounts throughout the departments. Okay. Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Ally, do you have anything?
No.
Okay, great. Okay. Good. Next brings us to physical location for meetings.
Correct. And so I'm going to look to Kim and Ally for a little bit of more discussion on this, since it was brought up that you might, Ally, do one of you mind?
I think here, why don't I just, Ally, I'm happy to read the email you sent. I mean, basically the overall piece of it is that the ability for public bodies to meet entirely remotely expires in January. Ally probably knows the date.
The 15th.
Okay, expires January 15th. So there can still be hybrid meetings, but after January 15th, every meeting of a town committee or commission has to have at least one physical location where members of the public can attend. So
that was my understanding of it, and I think it's bringing it forward in this meeting is so everybody that's here in your liaison for each committee and board that you're on, make sure that that information gets communicated.
Ally, did you want to add anything?
Nope, that's the gist of it. Thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, that will bring us to department updates.
All right, so I was requested to bring together a list of some of the bigger items that we've been working on. So I reached out to each department and I'm just going to read through them. I'll stop after each one, and that way if you have questions that I need to take back for further clarification, I certainly will do that. So the first one was Hartford Ave, the speed complaint that we had received. I spoke with Lori in the planning department and the police department regarding their two pieces. As far as the police department goes, they put the speed cart there. Excuse me, the speed cart has been stored for the season, but they're going to continue to conduct speed enforcement with handheld and dash mount radar devices while they're there. They're also working with the governor's highway safety grant, which is grant money that is specifically for traffic enforcement outside of the normal patrol shifts. As far as the planning department, they're pursuing to do a speed study with V-Trans and Two Rivers out of Cleachy. So we're hoping that they'll be able to provide us an update in January with that.
So at this point, there isn't any formal request to be trans to reduce the speed. We went on to do a speed study first in order to support that. Has that been communicated to any members of the public that had concerns? I mean,
I'm not sure.
I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy to just send an email to say we got an update.
If you would like to, that would be great. Another question had been asked was, how is the timber harvesting going in the town forest? And weekly updates are being posted every Friday on the town website and the homepage under the news post section. It talks about what's occurred for that week and what's coming up in the next week. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to town planner Matt Osborne.
Yeah, can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
In the manifest, I saw a considerable amount of money being spent for gravel for that. Are we having to build a pad for that? Is the town having to build a pad for that? I don't understand where all that material is going for that.
They actually purchased the material under our contract. We're not paying for it, they utilized it, but because it's our contract, so they'll be reimbursing the town.
Okay, so but it still shows up on a manifest
That
as
is,
us for that. Okay.
that is correct.
I was kind of concerned about the large amount of gravel going into that.
Yeah,
town
we actually
purchase.
had a discussion about that at one of our meetings, and because it did come up and.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. All right, thank you.
Correct.
Big concern.
Correct. And then obviously the last thing is, as far as the timber harvesting goes, it's really dependent on weather, because they want to make sure that the ground is frozen up and making sure that they're not doing any damage. There was a question about 87 Maple Street. We've heard from a few different residents regarding it, and the town has been working with the property owner regarding it. It is in a special flood hazard area, and they had hoped that the work would be completed by mid-November. However, it looks like they're working on it, and between Public Works and the Planning Department, they are working with the current property owner, and will continue to follow up with them until the site is in compliance and making sure that there's no immediate concerns. Any questions on that one?
So there's not, like, if sorry. So if there's any kind of accident or injury relating to the current scaping that's going on there, is the town liable for any of that? No.
No.
Okay.
We shouldn't have to worry about fencing or anything, because there's absolutely no liability whatsoever to us for not doing anything to prevent this, right? if anything happens there, it's not on our
It
concern.
isn't correct. It belongs to the property owner. And I think one of the challenges that we have, and not just with 87 Maple Street, is that property owners do very much what they want to do a lot of the time. And the recourse that the town has in certain situations, it's going back to them and going back to them and going back to them to ask them to correct the violation or the challenge that we're having. We're not in a position that we can go and lock their doors or take away barricade their driveway. We don't have, there's a process that we have to follow, and unfortunately, it takes a little bit longer.
Is there anything when it comes down to public safety concerns that the town can step in and ask the owner to reimbursement for public safety concerns?
I would imagine that if it was an imminent public safety hazard, that would be reported to the appropriate departments, and we would be able to take action.
I have spoke to the health officer about that, so he said he was going to talk to the fire department about that as well. So, yeah.
Next one is promotional process at the police department, and the sergeants and the corporals testing, they're scheduled to do that January 11th of next year. The testing agency recommended for 45 to 90 days to be provided for studying, which they were given, and they should receive their test scores no later than January 20th. Once they've received the scored material, they'll be able to do a panel interview and public speaking portion of the process. And then promotions will then be determined, based on the total score, panel recommendations and command staff. The goal is to have all the promoted staff into their positions by February 1st. The promotional listing will be active for 2 years. So making progress there, which is great, means we're getting staffed up and being able to promote. Any questions on that one? Public Works, Gate Street. The contract was prepared and signed off on. We all know that on December 5th, working with Du Bois and King. And the project manager is working on scheduling the field work consisting of utility locating, topographic and boundary survey and boring work. A schedule is not quite available yet. Obviously, with the winter conditions, it's making it a little bit difficult to put the schedule together. I think the important thing is as soon as the weather breaks or as the weather allows, they'll be able to start working on it. Questions on that one? The next question that was about the VA cutoff bridge. The project is currently under with the Vermont Department of Transportation. They're in the bidding process right now. They're expected to begin construction in April of next year, so April of 23. But it's not anticipated to be completed until August of August of 25. So it's a couple-year process. And there's, the traffic is currently expected to be maintained through the existing bridge until the new bridge is ready for use. So we're hopeful that it won't be as much of a traffic jam as we've had with some of the other bridge replacements and repairs that we've had. And
The VA cutoff? I thought we had. Will there still be a detour? No detour.
Yeah.
And we still don't have to pay more because of that? Because I remember that being a very significant thing. It was like going to be 5 million more if we.
Right, so the change with the VA cutoff bridge is that the federal government and the state government came back and they're funding all of that.
That's right, and that's why we didn't have to use those.
Correct. We're only responsible paying for a much smaller version of it.
Pretty significant. So and no detour.
Correct.
Okay.
Are final designs completed for that bridge?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Are final designs completed for the bridge?
I believe so, because they have it out to bid.
And where could I find a copy of those? Planning and development, I'm sure it would be. I would like a copy if you could possibly to the
I can
board.
ask Public Works.
Yeah, if you could. Thank you.
Because there was that question at one point about how trucks moving in would go.
I was
over.
concerned, yeah, I'd like to see how that ended up
Well,
being.
if I remember correctly, they said they couldn't change the plans at this
No,
point.
it would be interesting to see if they've any considerations been taken. Thank you, guys.
I have a note.
Thank you.
Would you send it to the whole board if you
Yeah.
send it anyway?
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Website. If I had a nickel for every time I heard about how bad our website is, I wouldn't have to be sitting here anymore. The IT director is working on it, and changing to this website didn't happen overnight. It was a lot of work to get everything ported over. And we did sign a contract with the website company that we currently have now. So we're working on ways to have an exit strategy and have a better website, which we're looking at moving back to the one that we had, but on a different platform.
Is the other one still accessible? Is the old site still accessible?
I don't know that.
It's easier to find stuff there. So,
I believe that it was accessible for a period of time.
Yeah.
My understanding is we would only have to move back the stuff that we put onto the new one. So that's definitely way outside of my scope, and I leave it to people that are much more tech savvy than I am.
I would just like to put a plug in for, because if it is Civic Plus, they do have a ticketing system for responding to public inquiries and questions and emails and things that I've just seen a little demonstration of. And anyway, so I would say if we go back to Civic Plus, to definitely consider that as a plugin or whatever the terminology is.
Okay.
We still really need that service.
So the support is, if I hear you correctly, the support that they provide for end users.
It's kind of I think it's an add-on to the platform that municipalities can subscribe to basically manage responding to individuals.
Okay, perfect.
I'll find the link and I'll send it to you what I'm talking about.
Great. Question about DPW director. That position has been posted. It'll be closing January 13th. We're hopeful to reach out. We're hopeful that the further outreach will result in an attractive candidate. We most certainly are very thankful for Jeremy Delisle's willingness to participate in the role that he's in, and he's done an amazing job, and we look forward to his future with the town. He's been a major asset. Assessor, that's been posted everywhere that needs to be posted. It is open-ended. I think we've talked about the assessor world is a very unique position, and not only just Vermont, but all of New England is struggling trying to find an assessor. We'll be looking at, can we share it with another community? The last thing that we want to have to do is subcontract it. We did that when we had a vacancy before. It was exceptionally expensive and was very just disconnected. We'd like to be able to have our residents come in and have those conversations. And when you're subcontracting with an individual who doesn't really know a lot about the community, it makes it difficult to have some of those more personable discussions. So Joe Turner has offered to stay on with us. He's still here for a part-time basis, so he is available by email and by phone, and he will be coming in as needed for in-person meetings. But
time out. Joe's leaving us?
Joe Turner,
Yes.
his last day was November 30th.
I guess I was not aware of that. Huh.
Yeah, we've had discussions about it.
Okay, I guess that's a shame. Okay.
Yes.
That's
Joe
a
is
shame.
Yeah, Joe has chosen to return to school and has made a decision that's best for him, himself and his family, and actually relocating, will be eventually relocating to a community that's closer to where all of his.
So, yeah, okay, like discussion for another time, I guess, different.
So we're grateful that he's been staying in touch and very much on board with helping us find a replacement, especially through his contacts that he has. And he's familiar with Hartford and he knows what Hartford needs. So we're excited that he's not only staying on to assist us in the assessor position, but also helping us put feelers out there and find a good fit for Hartford.
We'll drop that one.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
No, I guess I totally dropped that he was leaving us.
Oh.
I guess I did not realize that.
So town hall, parking lot lights, collaboration between Parks and Recreation and Public Works. We should have parking lot lights. Hopefully soon. They're in the middle of the, hey, we've got RFPs in the process. So we're steps way ahead of where we were before. I've been working with Lieutenant Thomas Howell for overall security in town hall in general, whether it's the panic buttons, routine lockdown drills, a lot of these things we just never had. And key card access, talking about how we can secure second and third floor during, like right now, we're having a meeting. We have no idea who's coming and going out of the building. So it's really important for everyone to feel secure, and many of us work very late at night, and it's important to make sure that things are locked down. Also working with them, panic buttons, making sure if they're pushed, that the police department know where the button is coming from. So versus just saying it's in town hall, you certainly don't want them going to the wrong office. Also lets them know which entrance that they should be taking. So we're working on all of that as well.
Should we just get an active shooter drill on the books at some point?
That's part of the, yeah. So he's going to be doing that. And because of the way that the building is set up and each department is set up differently structurally, he will do them for each department individually and then do them as the entire building. And so at first I've asked that they be done on a on a monthly basis for 6 months, and we can get used to it, and then we'll do it on a quarterly basis. So probably right after the beginning of the new year, we're going to get through the holidays and all of that. And he's also consulting with some other individuals to find out what works best in similar layouts of what we have. So rather than just jump on something and find out it doesn't work, he's been doing some consulting for that. I think I've already talked about this, the Wilder Park and Ride. We'd heard from residents that they wanted lighting there. So I tasked Dana Clausen, he's the environmental sustainability coordinator. He worked with Public Works and got some contact information for the state of Vermont. They do have grant funding that's available for lighting, and also potentially could include setting up some EV charging stations there. The only downfall is the grant is only available once a year and it's in late summer. So downfall, yes, not really. At least we'll have time right now to do the research that we need and be ready when the grant application is available. And if timing goes well enough, we should still have adequate timing to have lights installed before next winter. So that's the game plan anyways. Questions on that?
I made a comment about that. If we're going in that direction with more EV chargers, it's my understanding that you need to have internet access. We might want to look at having a plan set up for town-wide as opposed to just individual locations and adding those along. It might be a better deal if we think about that ahead of time a little bit.
Yeah,
thank you.
And then
Question, in the parking lot up there. Is there, I'm not sure if it's been discussed with the police department or not, but the availability of perhaps putting a camera up there as well. For video surveillance. Because of the issues we had in the past. I don't know if there's something that's been discussed or not, so might be worthwhile. I know that we talked about cameras when the acting deputy chief was in here. So that might be a place that we could consider a camera for parking lots.
we actually haven't discussed putting cameras there, and the placement of cameras is a sensitive subject because many individuals feel as though their privacy is being challenged.
Down parking lot though, so. Yeah.
I understand that. So currently at this time, the answer would be no, there hasn't been a discussion about installing a camera there.
Yeah, just we have to think about that in the days going forward if we're going to talk about security within the town. So, okay.
So I'll leave that for
Yes.
the board to have a discussion regarding that. And then the last item that I had was the town emergency operations plan. Fire chief has been working on getting the RFP together, and that should be going out soon. So very happy about that. Open for any other questions that you may have, or if there's any other projects that or concerns, or something that you would like for me to follow up on. And remember, I only have one sheet of paper, so choose your.
Since you asked, with the community safety review or assessment, is that something that, and that was something that I think came from H4 as a request for our programs too, so it'd be interesting. That could be part of that discussion to fund it, but I guess I would like to just follow up and see if it's something that you're willing to have the acting police chief and Chief Cooney review to see if they, and basically in an attempt, the goal would be to see if it could be re-released in maybe January.
Okay.
I think I did send a link to you again, which I can, I just want to follow up on it and see if it will be something that could be re-released in January, either as is, or if either of the chiefs want to make recommendations.
My look that I'm giving to you is because I thought that's already being done, so I
Okay, great.
I'll follow up because I believe since the discussion that we had during the budget presentations that came up then, and I believe that we talked about it one other time, but I will double check and make sure that they are reviewing it.
I know they've been busy.
That's what I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, since they were here beginning of December, and since then we've had quite a few major things going on, but I can definitely follow up and find out.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go to commission reports. Can we start?
Sure. So we're gonna remove the January 3rd meeting because it does not need to be warned as a public meeting. So
And are we meeting here?
we're meeting here, we have room 2 reserved as the select board training, which we can be exempt from the open meeting law requirement as long as we're not discussing town business. We will be doing the training, which will be relating to data collected from the surveys that we did. Does that count as town business, do you think?
Yes.
So maybe we should just keep it in there and do an executive session. And I'll have to find the right language. Is it too late to warn that? It has to be by 10 o'clock tomorrow?
You can still warn it tomorrow, correct, Lana?
Tomorrow.
Excuse me?
I need it tomorrow, yes.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow morning.
Because
Yeah.
all right, so we'll just need to do it as an executive session because there may be some. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it in there. Mr. Vice Chair, I move that we approve payroll ending December 24, 2022, meeting minutes of December 13, December 15, and December 20, 2022, and approve the AP manifest of December 23rd and December 27, 2022. And that's it. We have all those other.
Question, gonna have to pull out December 20th, 2022.
Is it for more than the typo with Ally?
I was not here for the 20th, so I have to pull that one out
Oh,
separately.
just so you don't vote, you're
Vote,
gonna
yeah.
abstain.
It needs to be pulled out separately.
Okay, so,
They do have commission report, so.
oh yeah, we didn't do commission reports.
It's okay, we jumped in. We can do the best in the commission reports. That you were starting, I know. Okay,
They both start with
You
C,
started
I know.
there and you just went to something else, so I just.
so let's finish this and then we'll go to commission.
Sounds great. Okay, so I'll accept the friendly amendment to take out December
20.
20th minutes, and so then we need.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. Any discussions or comments about that? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that is
And
Ally. is-
so you.
Well, did we just vote on the 20th?
No, we pulled out, yeah, we pulled out. the
We pulled it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, so we're voting on the others, but therefore I can vote for the others, so I did.
Great, okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you guys.
So
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, I move that we approve the meeting minutes of December 20th, 2022.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion or comments?
abstention, I'll abstain.
Okay, so one abstention, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have one abstention and everyone else in favor. Okay, good. Now we'll go to commission reports. And want to start, Lanny?
Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to report on this, but on the 14th, the zoning board met and had an application by Apex Storage out on Klein Drive that was approved. And then they had an application for Watersmith Properties that was approved for a garden center on Hartford Avenue. And that was it.
Hey, Rocket?
The Sister City Committee met and they would like to come in and present on their trip to Sinon, a couple of the members, so look forward to that. Discussions about the logo and where that will be placed around town. And the Town and School Meeting Committee, there's an ongoing conversation, which maybe Gail has some insight to, but basically, because it doesn't look like the select board is going to be taking any action on charter business before in advance with appropriate advance warning of info night on the 9th of January, there's discussion about potentially canceling the info night. I don't know if there's been any further insight to that. Ryan Scalza sent.
Yes, I saw an email about it this morning
Yeah.
and that was a recommendation to cancel it
Right.
and get it out there as soon as possible so residents are aware.
Right, because the postcards went out notifying everyone, but it seems like in absence of any material information to present, there's not really a need for an info night. So that's an ongoing conversation, I guess, between Paul and Gail and the Town and School Meeting Committee. So expect an update on that publicly soon.
Ally, do you
Can
have?
I ask a question in relation to that? Is it possible to nominate Gail Ostra to present the budget on budget night? No, who's gonna do it?
That's the board's
We haven't
responsibility
figured out
to
who's
do it.
gonna present the budget. Maybe Mike will do it.
I-
Let's
we
nominate
haven't-
Mike.
Mike,
We haven't got through the budget. I think
No, I know, but on budget night, someone is gonna have to present it.
I realize, I think we get through the budget first,
Well,
get closer to the end of it. Yeah.
okay, it's just a question I had.
Yeah.
I don't want to be,
A heads up.
yes.
okay. Ally, do you have anything?
Nope, not for me.
Okay, Mary?
Not for me.
Kim?
Similar to zoning, Hartford Planning Commission met on the 19th. They had reviewed 3 applications, one for a lot line adjustment and 2 site development plans, including the expansion of a storage facility and a garden center. All applications were approved unanimously by the commission members.
Great, okay. So that will bring us to whether we're going to have an executive session this evening. So I guess we will have a little discussion about whether we think we need one.
There is something that we need to move forward on that we could discuss on executive session under the terms of this heading.
I concur with that. Just really just a brief one.
Yeah. It'll be very brief.
It doesn't matter to me.
Yep.
Fine, yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we will have a brief executive session. So we'll ask Jam to stay until we come back to record any potential.
Mr. Chairman?
That's another
Yeah,
link to.
need to make a motion to go into executive.
We
session.
do, yes, we're not there
Okay.
yet. Yeah, I'm asking them to stay. So we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Move that in accordance with Vermont's open meeting law, 1 VSA 313. Move the select board enter into executive session, discuss appointment or evaluation of a public officer or employee.
I'll second.
On favor?
Aye.
Right?
Hi.
Okay, so we'll go into executive session. Back when we're done. Okay, so we'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Mr. Vice Chair, I make a motion that we come back from executive session.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Mary, any discussion or comments? Okay, we took no action coming out of executive session. So we will. Do we make a vote on it? Oh, so I don't think we have to vote on taking no action. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, so all in favor of coming out of executive session?
Aye.
Good. Okay, and then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Kim.
So moved, or did you already?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we will adjourn. Thank you.